I started working in China in 2013. Always our goal was to bring an exhibition to China, but we needed to make the Chinese public aware of the exhibition and its possible success. So we took it first to Taiwan. In Taiwan, it attracted 1.3 million visitors in 9 months and was the most successful exhibition they'd ever had. So that made it more possible to bring it to China in 2013.
探寻永生古埃及的神秘宝藏大展在厦门开幕。
We have been then bringing exhibitions of other sorts since then, because once we developed partnerships and a knowledge base, then it was easier to start working more broadly in China. So some of the other projects we've done are more art projects because I think they're easier to bring to China, and they surround themes of famous artists that the Chinese are quite aware of, and I think that makes it more possible to find organizers because you deal with famous artists like Renoir or Degas, and they immediately know they have a product that they can promote in China. We also look at cultural projects like the Ancient Egypt project, ones where there's sometimes a connection with tourism. I think that there's a lot of interest in going to places like Egypt and famous ancient cultures. So we're also looking at what other cultures in Egypt might be of interest in China. And then we're looking at thematic exhibitions that might be of interest because they coordinate with Chinese history. Industrial Revolution, communism, not as a theme in itself, but things like art of the communist period from other places in the world that could come here. The industry is changing in China because there is a much bigger awareness of the need to accommodate things that Western museums want. Early in our work here, it was very difficult to explain why we needed the humidity control, why we needed to have a clean exhibition space, why did we need these certain requirements for the trucks being air ride, and just a whole series of those kinds of things. And it was a struggle every time, and then I think that's changed dramatically, and that because there's been a lot more Western exhibitions in China over the last few years, and the West and China are looking to work together so much more, and there's so much more. We feel like there's a whole industry supporting these kinds of projects now. Finding good partners is important to trying for the first time to do an exhibition in China. You need to have local organizations to work with, and there are quite a few. But finding them is difficult, and then negotiating with them can be difficult because the whole style of negotiation around organizing an exhibition is quite different. Government museums can't charge entry fees, so that it's very difficult to find the funds to even transport the items here and pay the basic insurance. So for the organizers doing it, they have to be able to have an economic outcome. So then you need to find a venue that's suitable, and a lot of the venues in China don't meet Western museum standards and maybe aren't aware of them. So you have to work very hard to find the venues or the organizer who can modify the venues. So just as an example, we did an exhibition at the Shanghai Exhibition Center, which is a well-known exhibition center, but we did a Renoir fine art exhibition, and the environmental conditions there, it's an older building, they don't have humidity control. So we were lucky to work with an organizer who was quite knowledgeable and was able to get dehumidifying units in and monitor and run them properly. And that, I think, is a big challenge, is to not run into any problems, because once you walk away, you have to know that they're maintaining those conditions. Timescales are very different in China. People in China work to much shorter timescales than we're used to. They'll want an exhibition within 3 months, when we want to plan an exhibition for 2 years. They also, when they're building the gallery space, will start very close to the opening date, and that can make Western organizers very nervous. And I think you just have to learn to become comfortable with what can be achieved. People here will work through the night. They will put many people on a project that we would put a few on, and it works. So I think it's understanding how they work differently that way, and learning to be comfortable with it makes a big difference. Real things. They love real things, and I think that's the thing that we really focus on, is that we want to bring real objects that are significant and represent Western culture. In the Ancient Egyptian exhibition, we always get phone calls from the press asking, did your museum really send this? It's a constant question, is that real? Is that really from Egypt? How did that get from Egypt? And that seems to be the biggest experience that's being brought away, is that someone's seen something that is real and is not a copy. I haven't seen a big difference in approach, actually, and I think there's a strong feeling that Tier 1 cities are saturated, and that there are too many exhibitions going on in Tier 1 cities. And so while we do exhibitions, obviously here in Shanghai, and we've done them in Beijing, there's a much stronger interest from Tier 2 cities. By the organizers we're working with, that they have a much higher rate of success in Tier 2 cities and are much more willing to do projects in Tier 2 cities. And so that's actually what we're looking at more strongly, even though Shanghai and Beijing are often good places to start if you're wanting to do a tour, so that you create a recognized exhibition that's then easier to move around. But then you go to the Tier 2 cities, and that's where you actually get more of an audience base.